Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Martial Universe Season 10 Part 63 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. That black figure's faint laughter spread across the sky. Though his voice was soft, it managed to overwhelm the cheers from countless experts. Hence, their cheers came to a halt immediately. Many pairs of shocked eyes turned to look at that black figure who was standing on a mountain top. After which, countless experts began to circulate the yuan power within their bodies while caution filled their eyes. May I know who you are? Ying Xuanzi stared at that mountain top before he asked in a solemn voice. Lin Dong was also staring intently at that black figure. Following which, he involuntarily clenched his hand. Judging by his previous words, it was obvious that he was a Yimo. Moreover, he likely possessed a high status. Ying Huanhuan's eyes were icy cold. She said in a chilly voice, "A secretive coward. You must be a shady person." First Elder Zhu Li and the rest began to gather around them. After which, all of them stared cautiously at that mysterious black figure. Ha ha. That black figure smiled. After which, he slowly lifted his head. Thanks to the illumination from the sunlight, an exceptionally pale and youthful face appeared. However, his face looked exceptionally feminine. Meanwhile, his long eyes were completely pitch black and they looked like the bottom of a dark and evil deep abyss. At the same time, there was a brown devil symbol between this young man's brows, and that devil symbol extended to the corner of his eyelids. It made him look a little more ghastly. Oh yes, I forgot. The current you does not know who I am. Ha ha, let me introduce myself. Devil Prison, 4th Seat King. That person smiled before he said. 4th Seat King? Lin Dong's pupils shrunk before his expression turned grave. After which, he grabbed Ying Huanhuan and pulled her behind him. Meanwhile, he continued to stare intently at that black figure. He had previously encountered the Devil Prison 10th Seat King in the shattered space, and the latter's frightening strength made a deep impression on him. Henceforth, since the person standing in front of him was ranked even higher than the 10th Seat King, it was likely that he must be exceedingly powerful as well. Ha ha. Initially, I thought that Chen Yuan's group would be able to finish off all of you. Unexpectedly? Sigh, trash will always be trash. To think that our Devil Prison actually spent so much effort on them. The 4th Seat King smilingly said. Lin Dong stood emotionless while devouring power circulated rapidly within his body. After which, he devoured the surrounding yuan power and swiftly refined them. Are you Lin Dong? It is rumored that you have obtained the inheritance of the Devouring Master. In that case, Chen Yuan's group did not die in vain. After all, even at my prime, I could not defeat the Devouring Master. Hence, his heir must be no simple individual as well. The 4th Seat King turned his attention towards Lin Dong. Then, he gave a faint smile before he said, "Are you trying to recover quickly so that you can fight me?" Lin Dong smiled faintly and said, "Did you come all the way here just to spew nonsense?" Ha ha, I was indeed planning on getting rid of some threats. This is especially the case since I was able to meet the Ice Master Reincarnator. How fortunate. If I kill you here, I believe that there will be no need for the Second World War, am I right? The 4th Seat King looked at Ying Huanhuan before he said with a grin. Why don't you come and give it a try? Ying Huanhuan's pretty face was icy cold. Meanwhile, a murderous glint flashed across her beautiful eyes. If you were the real Ice Master, I would have fled already. Unfortunately, the 4th Seat King shook his head and spoke regretfully. Lin Dong stared at the 4th Seat King. A black glow suddenly surged in his eyes before the world that he saw became slightly altered. However, the body of the 4th Seat King seemed a little blurry. Huh? The instant Lin Dong detected this anomaly, a tinge of shock flashed across the eyes of the 4th Seat King. He stared at Lin Dong and laughed, "You caught me. It's no wonder the Chen Yuanzi trio were defeated by you. This is not his actual body." Lin Dong glanced at the 4th Seat King, before he secretly sighed in relief. The 4th Seat King in front of them was not his actual body. Instead, this fellow was actually able to create such a powerful avatar despite being at an unknown distant land. His strength was truly frightening. Although this is merely a devil body avatar, it's more than enough to deal with all of you. As if he was aware of Lin Dong's thoughts, the fourth seat king shook his head before he said. Lin Dong chuckled before he stared at the fourth seat king and said, "There is no need to put on a brave front. The reason why you Yimo have been hiding in this world is because you guys are afraid of something. Otherwise, given your characters, you people would have came forward and took over the entire world already. The reason why you do not dare to reveal your actual body is likely because you are afraid of something. Let me guess. You are afraid of the other ancient masters, am I right?" The smile on the fourth seat king's face seemingly froze for a moment. Then, he stared at Lin Dong before he softly said, "What a clever man. However, what can you do even if you know about it? It is not a difficult task for me to kill all of you now. Moreover, those fellows are all in a slumber. Hence, who is going to find out about what is going on here?" The fourth seat king stared sadistically at Lin Dong. Meanwhile, icy-cold murderous desire slowly flowed within his eyes. It's too easy to sense a powerful demonic aura like yours. If you really dare to act openly, why would you need to spend so much effort to groom Yuan Gate? Lin Dong smiled faintly and said, "It is just that I want to see humans kill each other and enjoy the show." The fourth seat king slowly lowered his hands. His indifferent eyes looked at Lin Dong before he said, "All right, let's stop spewing nonsense. Since you are so confident in yourself, let's give it a try." Great Desolation Scripture. Lin Dong's foot suddenly stomped on the ground after his voice sounded. Then, a mysterious ripple spread before the land began to tremble violently. After which, mighty energy surged before they continuously poured into Lin Dong's body. What a cunning little brat. The fourth seat king involuntarily smiled when he saw Lin Dong's decisive move. However, his smile was filled with murderous desire. The reason why Lin Dong spoke with the former was because he wanted to buy time to regain his strength and prepare his attack. However, this will only strengthen my desire to kill you. After the fourth seat king's voice sounded, his body had already appeared at a short distance away from Lin Dong. Meanwhile, his body was just like a wisp of black smoke. Kill him. After he approached, countless experts from the Yuan Destruction Alliance roared out in anger. Soon after, earth-shaking Yuan power attacks came whistling forward before they enveloped the fourth seat king. Swoosh! However, the fourth seat king's body was just like a phantom as he directly drifted past the attacks that permeated the sky. In fact, not a single attack managed to touch him. Just as the fourth seat king penetrated through the many attacks in the sky, monstrous chilling aura suddenly spread. Following which, Ying Huan suddenly formed a seal with her delicate hands, before cold aura quickly agglomerated into ice and snow. Then, they flew towards that figure with lightning-like speed. In a short instant, that figure was turned into an ice statue. Be careful! After that ice statue was formed, a cold cry suddenly sounded from behind Ying Huan. After which, a sword glow erupted before it ruthlessly pierced the empty space in front of her. Clang! When that sword glow hit the empty space, a metallic sound sounded. Sparks flew before a figure appeared in a phantom-like fashion. It was the fourth seat king. At this moment, he was using two fingers to pinch the tip of a sword. Then, he gently smiled at Ying Huan and Ling Qingshu. Rumble! All of a sudden, light covered the sky. Promptly, the fourth seat king gently frowned. Lifting his head, he suddenly realized that an extremely huge and complicated formation had unknowingly appeared in the sky. Is that the ancient universe formation? The fourth seat king looked at this somewhat familiar-looking ancient formation, before his pupils hardened. At this moment, vast and mighty Yuan power and mental energy swept out from within Lin Dong's body. Finally, they poured into the ancient universe formation. Immediately, that formation rotated before a light pillar shot downwards and headed straight towards the fourth seat king. The light pillar streaked across the world instantly. When he saw this attack, the fourth seat king hesitated for a moment, before he immediately turned around and pulled back. Swoosh! Though that light pillar missed, it did not disappear. Instead, with a sharp turn, it once again went after the fourth Seat King. Humph! When he saw that the attack refused to give up, the fourth Seat King let out a cold snort. Then, he gently placed his hands together, before he suddenly pulled them apart. Immediately, an enormous black light shield was formed. Bang! The light pillar ruthlessly smashed against the black light shield. Immediately, frightening assault waves spread, causing the ground below to collapse. The fourth Seat King took a few steps back quickly before he finally came to a halt. Then, with an indifferent expression, he stared back at Lin Dong, who was currently staring at him. Finally, a faint smile appeared. Meanwhile, Visca's seemingly solidified demonic aura slowly surged on his palm. You still have tricks up your sleeves even after experiencing that intense fight. You are quite capable indeed. Nonetheless, despite so, you will not be able to change today's outcome. The fourth Seat King once again charged forward after his words sounded. This time around, he headed straight towards Lin Dong. Meanwhile, the murderous desire in his heart caused one to shudder. Lin Dong stared at the fourth Seat King, who was rushing towards him. With a wave of his sleeve, a black figure also charged forward. After which, a black long blade slashed downwards furiously. Moreover, that blade glow seemingly cut through the empty space. That blade glow was extremely powerful and even the fourth Seat King felt so. However, what took Lin Dong by surprise was that he did not dodge. Instead, he allowed that black blade to fall before it subsequently penetrated his body. Lin Dong's eyes shrunk abruptly upon seeing this scene. Suddenly, he shouted, "Huan Huan, be careful." Lin Dong turned around after he cried out loud. After which, he saw that the fourth Seat King had appeared in front of Ying Huan Huan in a phantom-like fashion. It turns out that he was after Ying Huan Huan all along. "Ha ha, you are not that important compared to the Ice Master." The fourth Seat King ridiculed Lin Dong. After which, his hand suddenly reached towards Ying Huan Huan. With a dark and cold expression, a thought passed through Lin Dong's mind before a sharp light pillar came rushing down from the ancient universe formation and headed straight towards the fourth Seat King. Bang! However, the instant Lin Dong made a move, the land beneath Ying Huan Huan collapsed. Following which, before Lin Dong's light pillar could reach her, a lava fire pillar erupted from the ground and stood in front of Ying Huan Huan. The fourth Seat King's palm landed onto that lava fire pillar. Immediately, his palm turned red. After which, his expression changed drastically, before his body moved as he tried to retreat. Boom! However, the moment the fourth Seat King pulled back, a hand covered with lava shot out from within that lava fire pillar. After which, it ruthlessly slammed against his chest. The fourth Seat King flew backwards. He staggered rapidly on the empty space before he finally stabilized his body. Then, with gloomy eyes, he stared at that lava fire pillar. What? This lava fire pillar, which appeared out of nowhere, also caught Lin Dong and the rest by surprise. After which, they stared at the fire pillar. As the lava fire pillar gradually died down, a tall figure slowly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. He was a fairly tall man and he was wearing golden robes. His hair was fiery red in color and they looked like flowing lava. Meanwhile, just his presence alone caused the temperature in this part of the world to rise. Lin Dong looked at this figure, before he suddenly focused his eyes. After all, he was a little familiar looking. Amidst stares from the crowd, that red-haired man slowly turned his head around. Immediately, a youthful, handsome yet stern-looking face was revealed. At this moment, he did not look at anyone else. Instead, he merely looked at Ying Huan Huan, who was standing behind him. After which, warmth surfaced in his eyes before he gently smiled and said, "Little junior sister." The red-haired man stood in front of Ying Huan Huan. His golden robes was noble-looking, while his handsome face appeared warm and gentle. Meanwhile, when he stared at Ying Huan Huan, a warm ripple rose within his eyes. Ying Huan Huan felt a little uneasy at the manner in which that man was staring at her. Promptly, she took 2 steps back before she glanced quizzically at him and asked, "Who are you?" The red-haired man was startled. However, he quickly recovered and laughed. Little junior sister has yet to fully awaken. When he mentioned this point, he paused before he continued, I am the Flame Master. After he spoke, other than Lin Dong, everyone's expression changed. Following which, many pairs of eyes were filled with shock as they turned to stare at that red-haired man. Flame Master? One of the 8 legendary ancient masters? To most people here, the name Flame Master merely existed in legends. Therefore, they had only read from some ancient texts that described how powerful this top-tier expert from the ancient times was. During that ancient Great World War, countless Yima would immediately shudder in fear upon hearing his name. However, this legendary top expert had currently showed up in person in front of them. Hence, how could they possibly remain calm? Flame Master. Ying Huan was startled upon hearing this name. Then, she used her pretty eyes to glance at him before she took another 2 steps back. Finally, she shook her head and said, I am Ying Huan, not the Ice Master. You will be sooner or later. The Flame Master smiled nonchalantly before he said. When she heard his words, a cold aura surged onto Ying Huan's pretty face. However, even before she could speak, a human figure had already walked over from behind before he stood in front of her. The Flame Master has arrived. It has been a long while since we met. Lin Dong looked at that somewhat familiar figure standing in front of him, before a smile appeared on his face. After all, he was loosely acquainted with the Flame Master. Back when he first entered the chaotic demon sea, he had barged into the mysterious magma realm and found the latter in a slumber. Back then, Lin Dong even took a divine flame tablet from the latter. It's you? When the Flame Master saw Lin Dong, who was standing in front of him, a tinge of shock flashed across his face. Although he was in a slumber back then, he could still detect Lin Dong's actions within the magma realm. However, back then, Lin Dong was no different from an ant in his eyes. Therefore, he never expected Lin Dong to become so powerful after only a few years. The Flame Master's eyes were glimmering as he scanned Lin Dong's body. Meanwhile, the shock in his eyes grew even denser. It was a long while later before he sighed, Did you obtain the Devouring Master's inheritance? Lin Dong nodded. Given the Flame Master's abilities, it was not difficult for the latter to spot this. The Flame Master descended into silence. Meanwhile, there was a complicated expression in his eyes. Back then, the Devouring Master ignited his reincarnation in order to protect them. However, he had to sacrifice his own life in order to do so. As of now, since his inheritance was already given to Lin Dong, it was likely that the Devouring Master had truly perished from this world. This caused the Flame Master to involuntarily feel a little upset. While the two of them were talking, Ying Huan was slightly startled as she stared at the figure standing in front of her. Promptly, the cold chill on her face gradually faded away, before a slight arc was lifted on the corner of her lips. Is he jealous? This is truly a rare sight. With slight joy in her heart, Ying Huan extended her icy hand before she gently held Lin Dong's hand. The icy cool sensation suddenly transmitted to Lin Dong's hand startled him. However, he quickly recovered his senses, before a smile appeared on his face. After which, he gently held that icy cool hand and slowly increased his grip. Their actions were naturally seen by the Flame Master. The latter frowned immediately. Then, he hesitated for a moment before calling out, Little junior sister. You should call me Ying Huan. I prefer that name. Ying Huan shook her head slightly before she softly said. Lin Dong's heart shook upon hearing this. This lass had finally become so understanding. After which, when he saw the Flame Master's expression, he involuntarily asked in his heart, Yang, what is going on with the Flame Master? You better not tell me that he and the Ice Master were a couple. Yang coughed dryly and said, the Ice Master likes to be alone. How could she possibly have a lover? However, someone like her is extremely attractive and the Flame Master always had a crush on her. Nevertheless, despite his efforts, she remained unmoved. So it is a one-sided crush. Lin Dong came to a sudden understanding. He never expected that this renowned legendary figure, whose name was passed down since the ancient times, had actually failed in romance. it seems like the Ice Master was indeed a proud and arrogant person. The Flame Master remained nonchalant after hearing Ying Huan's words. Instead, he stared at Lin Dong and said, "In that case, I'll listen to you. I will address you as such after you return to being the Ice Master." Lin Dong frowned. That was because he realized that the Flame Master was looking at him with a slightly peculiar expression. In fact, it seemed like it contained a trace of pity. This caused Lin Dong to feel a little irritated in his heart. Why did this fellow immediately conclude that Ying Huan would transform into that darned Ice Master? Although Lin Dong was irritated, for some unknown reason, his heart also became depressed. As that mysterious emotion surged into his heart, it caused him to involuntarily tighten his grip over Ying Huan's hand. Promptly, the latter seemed to have detected his action as well. Immediately, she lowered her pretty eyes before she curled her hand and grasped Lin Dong's hand. "Ha ha, I didn't expect that even the Flame Master has showed up. However, from your appearance, it seems like this is not your actual body." An indifferent laughter was transmitted from a short distance away, just as emotions were churning within Lin Dong's heart. Then, he saw that the Fourth Seat King was looking at the Flame Master, who had just arrived, with a faint smile. After he heard those words, Lin Dong glanced at the Flame Master. Only then did he realize that there was a faint glow being emitted from the latter's body. From the looks of it, it seems like his actual body did not arrive. Instead, just like the Fourth Seat King, he had created an avatar using his formidable powers, which was now stationed far away from his actual body. "Wouldn't you have fled already if my actual body came?" The Flame Master looked at the Fourth Seat King, before he waved his hand and continued, "Get lost." Although the Flame Master appeared extremely gentle in front of Ying Huan, he revealed the might and domineering pride that belonged to one of the 8 ancient masters when he faced the Fourth Seat King. "Heh, just a fellow avatar. Do you really think that I am afraid of you?" An ugly expression flashed across the Fourth Seat King's feminine face before he chuckled. The Flame Master stared indifferently at the Fourth Seat King. Following which, a crimson glint flashed across his eyes before the entire place became searing hot. In fact, even the clouds in the sky had turned bright red. Rumble. A loud sound suddenly reverberated across the sky. After which, everyone lifted their heads before they were all stunned when they saw that a flaming meteorite had unknowingly appeared amidst the clouds. After which, it streaked across the sky before it ruthlessly smashed towards the Fourth Seat King. The instant he made a move, the Flame Master demonstrated his terrifying prowess. He was indeed worthy of being one of the 8 ancient masters. A brutal glint flashed across the eyes of the Fourth Seat King when he saw the Flame Master's attack. However, there was also fear deep within his eyes. Clearly, he did not dare to slight the Flame Master. Majestic and viscous demonic aura suddenly swept out from within the body of the Fourth Seat King. Then, he clenched his large hand before the demonic aura transformed into a demonic sea that floated in the sky. Bang! The flaming meteorite ruthlessly crashed into the demonic sea and stirred monstrous demonic waves. Promptly, a crimson color began to spread and even the demonic sea could not extinguish it. Instead, the demonic sea began to melt at a frightening pace as the sea of flames spread. A pale expression flashed across the face of the Fourth Seat King. Promptly, his body moved. The next time he appeared, he was already standing behind Ying Huan. Following which, he fired a punch filled with demonic aura towards the latter. As Lin Dong was constantly keeping an eye on that fellow, the instant he made a move, Lin Dong swung his sleeve before his sky-devouring corpse, which was holding a black long blade, immediately appeared behind Ying Huan. Following which, he hacked his blade downwards. Clang! The Fourth Seat King's hand, which was filled with demonic aura, extended forward and clashed with the sky-devouring corpse's black long blade. Immediately, sparks flew. Nonetheless, although he managed to obtain the upper hand, his attack was still blocked by the sky-devouring corpse. All of a sudden, hot flames surged out from beneath the ground and transformed into a flaming fist, before it ruthlessly struck the body of the Fourth Seat King. After which, flames surged before the Fourth Seat King was sent flying by more than 10,000 feet. With a somewhat pale expression, the Fourth Seat King forcefully stabilized his body. Meanwhile, his eyes were filled with a dark and gloomy expression. When he looked at the Flame Master and Lin Dong, who were protecting Ying Huan, he knew that he could no longer succeed. Flame Master, all of you shouldn't be so proud of yourself. You guys won the previous Great World War only because the symbol ancestor ignited his reincarnation. Without the symbol ancestor, do you guys really believe that you can win the Second Great World War? The fourth seat king said in a cold voice. I know that since you people have been in hiding over all these years, you people must have something planned. Currently, it is true that I am unable to spare the time to do something about it. However, you people had better be careful. This is because... The Flame Master smiled faintly and said, the Lightning Master has awakened and he is currently scouting the world looking for you people. Therefore, all of you had better hide well. I'm afraid that it won't be so easy to escape once he finds you. The eyes of the fourth seat king shrunk slightly. Then, he chuckled, the Lightning Master, huh? So what if he has awakened? I'm afraid that a single ancient master can hardly do anything to us. Is that so? The Flame Master was non-committal. The fourth seat king snorted coldly. It was pointless to say anything more at this juncture. Hence, he immediately waved his hand before his body gradually became illusory. Finally, he vanished. Flame Master, just you wait. In the next World War, my Yimo tribe will definitely destroy your plane. The fourth seat king's cold and dark voice continued to reverberate across the world after he vanished. The Flame Master's expression did not change. After which, he turned around and looked at Lin Dong and Ying Huan before he said, let's go. Go? Lin Dong was startled. He looked at the Flame Master with a strange expression before he said, are you planning on following us? The Flame Master gave a faint smile. However, his eyes remained focused on Ying Huan as he said, her identity has already been exposed. I will remain by her side until she completely awakens. After which, he did not say anything more as he directly shut his eyes and began to recuperate. Lin Dong's face immediately darkened upon hearing this. Damn it, is he really going to follow us all the way? As Lin Dong was unable to get rid of this leech that had suddenly latched onto them, he felt quite helpless. However, from the way that things had played out, it was clear that the Flame Master was not going to leave Ying Huan's side. Hence, since he could not change his mind, he could only accept it temporarily. After all, the world was becoming increasingly chaotic and those Yimo, who had been in hiding for tens of thousands of years, had finally revealed themselves. Moreover, Ying Huan's identity as the Ice Master Reincarnator was also exposed. Therefore, it would be very troublesome if more powerful Yimo came after her. As such, with the Flame Master as a free helper, it was likely that they would be much safer. With this thought in mind, Lin Dong decided to stop fretting over it. As of now, Yuan Gate was destroyed and it was pointless to continue lingering in this place. Hence, after a brief chat, the large army began to move before they hurried back to Dao Sect. The Yuan Destruction Alliance, that was temporarily formed, had obviously served its purpose. Hence, many powerful practitioners bade each other goodbye and left. Lin Dong did not try to stop them as well. Although it would greatly boost the strength of his Dao Sect if they were able to retain such experts, Lin Dong was unwilling to do so. After all, the reason why he liked Dao Sect was because he felt that this sect was worthy of his protection. Hence, if a large number of foreign experts were to suddenly join, it was inevitable that Dao Sect's culture would change and this was something that Lin Dong dreaded. Hence, he would rather Dao Sect progress steadily and gradually become stronger. Moreover, he did not want to risk the possibility that the essence of Dao Sect may change after it received such an influx. Countless bright and glittering pairs of eyes greeted Lin Dong's large group when they returned to Dao Sect. After which, earth-shaking cheers soared to the clouds and one could even hear them from 500 kilometers away. Every Dao Sect disciple was so excited that they ran out of Dao Sect with red eyes. After all, many of their martial seniors and juniors were killed by Yuan Gate in the last year. Despite so, they could only suppress the hatred within their hearts, clench their teeth and watch as Yuan Gate continued to act in a haughty fashion. In fact, they could only cower within their sect guarding formation. Moreover, even on rare occasions where they left the formation, they would constantly be on tenterhooks as they did not dare to expose the fact that they were Tao sect disciples. All of this finally began to change when that travel-weary young man returned to their Tao sect. His figure was still straight and tall. However, there was an additional determined look on his youthful face. After being absent for 3 years, he once again shouldered the heavy burden of their entire Tao sect. It was exactly the same as what happened 3 years ago back at the unique Devil region. At the very last moment, he showed up and heroically reversed the situation all by himself. Upon his return, Yuan Gate, who had suppressed Tao sect until the latter could not lift its head, finally began to retreat. Finally, he gathered troops, charged up to Yuan Gate and settled the score once and for all. Although the disciples who had stayed behind in Tao sect did not get to witness that soul-stirring fight with Yuan Gate, they all believed that their Tao sect would soar under his command. Ultimately, that man did not disappoint them. With him in command, he eventually returned triumphantly with the results that they were hoping for. Although Tao sect had produced a number of outstanding disciples since its establishment, everyone knew that Lin Dong had far surpassed every single one of them. Certain individuals' names were destined to go down in the annals of history. The celebrations within Tao sect lasted for 5 entire days. Over this period of time, news that Yuan Gate was destroyed spread rapidly across the eastern Xian region. After which, the celebrations began to spread from Tao sect to the rest of the entire eastern Xian region. As such, the entire eastern Xian region erupted into an uproar. The war that Yuan Gate started affected the entire eastern Xian region. In fact, countless sects were reduced into ashes due to Yuan Gate's iron hooves. Moreover, even though they hated Yuan Gate, all of them could only hide like mice. In fact, no one expected that the once mighty and invincible Yuan Gate, which looked down on everyone else, would actually fall so swiftly, just like how one had no time to hide from thunder after one saw a lightning bolt. Moreover, they were thoroughly destroyed. While the entire eastern Xian region was in shock over the collapse of Yuan Gate, Tao sect's reputation soared to its peak. After all, even a faction as powerful as Yuan Gate was ultimately finished off by Tao sect. Therefore, which other sect in the eastern Xian region dared to compete with them? Currently, most of the super sects within the eastern Xian region were destroyed by Yuan Gate and the old power structure was destroyed. Amongst the super sects, only Tao sect and 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace remained standing. Therefore, it was clear that these 2 super sects would stand to reap the most benefits after this chaotic war ended. As Tao sect's reputation soared to its peak, Lin Dong's name also spread across the entire eastern Xian region. After all, everyone clearly knew who was the deciding factor in this counterattack. In the past, Tao sect was constantly suppressed by Yuan Gate. Therefore, Lin Dong was definitely the main reason why Tao sect was able to reverse the situation and destroy Yuan Gate instead. Moreover, thanks to Lin Dong's growing repute, everyone in the eastern Xian region came to know of the Great Yang Empire. At this moment, it was likely that no other empire in the eastern Xian region would dare to offend this once inconsequential low-ranked empire. In the period that followed, some of the super sects tried to rebuild their sect. However, their strength and reputation were far lacking compared to before. Moreover, all of them were quite wise and they continued to maintain great respect for Tao sect. In fact, all of them insisted that Tao sect should become their leader. After all, after witnessing Tao sect's frightening strength, it was clear that none of them dared to oppose them. However, Tao sect remained non-committal. After all, they were not as ambitious as Yuan Gate, which wanted every sect in the eastern Xian region to submit to them. In fact, the only thing that they wanted was to protect their own sect and settle some scores. Regardless, the once chaotic eastern Xian region that was fraught with conflict gradually calmed down. After the celebrations, there were many essential tasks waiting to be completed. In the future, this region will become even livelier and shine brighter than before. In contrast to the uproar in the outside world, Tao sect, which was now the most dazzling faction in the eastern Xian region, quickly began to calm down after the initial joyous celebrations. Although the entire sect was still busking in a relaxed and confident atmosphere, the crazy celebrations of the past had gradually died down. Meanwhile, they continued to recruit and train new disciples as per the old rules. However, even after repeated attempts to clamp down, the number of practitioners seeking to join them continued to grow. Lin Dong was walking leisurely within Dao sect. Occasionally, some Dao sect disciples would scurry past him before some flushed young female disciples would glance at him with curiosity and embarrassment. Meanwhile, he would also hear disciples shouting his name, Martial Senior Lin Dong, from afar. It was an extremely lively sight. With a gentle smile on his face, Lin Dong nodded at those Dao sect disciples. As he looked at those Dao sect disciples, who were looking at him with excited and even reverential eyes, his typically tensed heart also began to relax, as though he was relieved of a great burden. The sensation that he felt now was exactly the same as when he first joined Dao sect 3 years ago. Lin Dong had experienced far too many life and death situations during these past few years. At times, he would feel quite tired as well. However, he knew that he could not afford to stop. After all, he was carrying far too many things on his back. Hence, if he had stopped, it was likely that Dao sect would have been reduced to rubble by now. Meanwhile, the brilliant smiles of his martial seniors and juniors would also cease to exist. In fact, even his clan and his parents would have perished during the war. At times, in order to protect something, one must pay a price. Fortunately, Lin Dong had never regretted his decision since the beginning. With an extremely relaxed attitude, Lin Dong walked onto a training platform. After which, he sat down beside a pill river. Currently, there were many Dao sect disciples sitting down and training quietly a short distance away. They were absorbing and refining the Yuan power within the pill river. A lazy and peaceful atmosphere permeated this place, causing Lin Dong to feel like skiving off. 10 days had passed since the destruction of Yuan Gate and Lin Dong had already made a complete recovery. Meanwhile, over the last 10 days, he allowed himself to completely relax and he ignored everything that happened in the outside world. Whatever chaos, whatever aftermath, whatever yimo, all of them were temporarily placed aside. Ying Xuanzi and the rest appeared to be aware of Lin Dong's intentions. Therefore, they did not disturb him at all during this period of time. Instead, they allowed him to leisurely roam around Dao sect all day round. As such, he became quite an interesting sight within Dao sect. Lin Dong sat lazily beside a pill river. His eyes looked at the flowing pill river before he fell into a daze. It was a long time later before he felt a little tired. Then, he slowly shut his eyes before darkness covered his sight. Though darkness covered Lin Dong's sight, the sight within his heart remained extremely bright and clear. In fact, he could clearly sense the entire Dao sect and even every disciple within. Meanwhile, he could feel their great excitement and pride. Their heated emotions caused a boiling warmth to appear in Lin Dong's heart. It was as warm as the sun. This sensation was extremely comfortable. As it was very comfortable, Lin Dong's body stopped moving. Seated on a training platform, time quickly flew by. Those Dao sect disciples, who were quietly training, ended their training and saw that Lin Dong's figure had remained as still as a rock. When they looked at his relaxed back, their eyes suddenly became absent-minded. In fact, they felt as though his back had merged with the world, and it was impossible to touch or to detect him. Some private conversations spread as many disciples felt absent-minded. Finally, an increasing number of disciples hurried over. Then, all of them looked at that figure with shock in their eyes. As the commotion slowly grew, it eventually attracted Ying Xuanzi and the rest. Then, they looked at Lin Dong, who appeared to have stopped breathing. In fact, it seemed as though even the Yuan power and mental energy within the latter's body had stopped flowing. Immediately, their expressions became exceptionally solemn. After all, they were extremely experienced individuals. Hence, even though they did not know what was going on, they knew that Lin Dong had obviously entered into a profound and mysterious trance. Bitter training was the foundation in one's cultivation journey. However, there were occasionally some lucky individuals who were able to experience a eureka moment that was equivalent to a decade of bitter training. At this moment, Lin Dong seemed to have entered a profound and mysterious trance. Hence, even though they did not understand what was going on, they knew that this was very important to Lin Dong. Therefore, they began to dismiss the many disciples and empty out the training platform, in order to prevent anyone from disturbing Lin Dong. On a mountain top within Dao sect, the Flame Master was staring from afar at that skinny figure seated on a training platform. Meanwhile, a faint divine light was glimmering within his eyes, while a tinge of shock stealthily flashed past the deepest part of his eyes. The figure had been seated beside the Pill River for over a month. During this period of time, his body was as still as a rock, and even his breathing had completely disappeared. The temperature of his body was icy, appearing just like a lifeless corpse. This scene caused even Ying Xuanzi's group to feel somewhat bewildered, and even less needed to be said for the ordinary Dao sect's disciples. After all, they had never witnessed such a situation. However, they were ultimately somewhat perceptive, and clearly understood that Lin Dong must not be disturbed. Hence, they sternly prohibited any ordinary disciples from entering the training platform. This 1 month quietly passed amidst the uncertain and worried gazes of the many Dao sect disciples. With the flow of time, everyone gradually began to felt something odd. Some of the sharper individuals could vaguely feel a mighty and vast energy stealthily gathering in the sky above Dao sect. This power was ethereal and without form. However, it caused one to feel an almost solid pressure. Only the strong mental energy cultivators could clearly feel the existence of this energy and were overwhelmed with shock. Because it turned out that this power was actually vast and endless mental energy. The tremendous amount of mental energy caused even the experts, who had come into contact with reincarnation, to feel some fear in their hearts. That power was like an endless ocean. It enveloped the sky above Dao sect, causing countless Dao sect's disciples to feel jittery. The mental energy that pervaded the sky grew increasingly dense day by day. Occasionally, a low and deep rumble of thunder would emerge in the sky. The thunder seemed to contain a destructive ripple that caused one's scalp to turn numb. Ying Xuanzi and the others glanced at the sky before smiling bitterly. After which, their helpless eyes shot towards the human figure, who was seated like a rock beside the Pill River. This power, which even they had difficulty bearing, was clearly related to Lin Dong's mysterious state. However, they did not know how long this would last. After all, the mental energy in the sky was a little overly terrifying. Should it go out of control, the entire Dao sect would likely be reduced to ruins in an instant. Despite being worried, there was clearly little they could do. All that was left was to continue waiting. Ying Xuanzi and the rest did not think that anything unexpected would happen amidst this wait. However, something did happen to Ying Huan during this period. This lass had greatly exhausted herself on the day they destroyed Yuan Gate. She had spent a couple of days recuperating after she returned in order to recover. Inexplicably, however, the cold aura that emanated from within her body in the following month became increasingly dense. Everyone could feel her strength soar wildly as the cold qi within her body grew denser. This rapid rate caused Ying Xuanzi and the others to be rather worried. Such an uncontrolled rise had occurred only after Lin Dong had entered his mysterious state. It continued for half a month before it gradually slowed. The chill now caused one to feel a terrible discomfort. Hence, Ying Huan had secluded herself on the ice lake at the back of a mountain over this period. Even Ying Xuanzi could only endure 10 minutes of the cold qi there before being forced to leave. Ying Huan's transformation made Ying Xuanzi and the rest feel somewhat uneasy. The unease felt by Ying Xiaoxiao was even greater. She wanted to head to the ice lake to guard Ying Huan a couple of times, but she was unable to endure the cold qi. In the end, she was forcibly extracted by Ying Xuanzi. These sudden changes gave Ying Xuanzi a huge headache. However, he was after all the sect master of Dao sect, a steady man who did not panic. He could only seal off the ice lake and prohibit ordinary disciples from approaching. After which, there was not much else that he could do. The only thing left was to wait till Lin Dong awoke and take another look. This wait continued for half a month or so before there was finally some activity. Rumble. The Dao sect disciples continued their daily compulsory lessons and training. However, things were clearly different today. The weather had become rather stifling since morning, and the deep rumbling thunder was far more frequent than usual. The sky had already become dark by afternoon. After which, everyone saw dark clouds surging over in the sky. An endless number of thunderbolts coiled about in the sky like lightning dragons as a frightening natural pressure spread. Bang! Thunderbolts flashed and the entire Dao sect was lit by lightning as if it was daytime. The Yuan power in the area began to flare up. All the strong individuals within Dao sect wore grave expressions as they looked at the violence in the sky. The corners of their eyes twitched slightly. Such a lightning storm would likely turn even a Samsara stage super expert to dust in an instant. The hearts of countless Dao sect trembled with fear as they gazed upon the sky. After which, they hurriedly withdrew to places where they could take shelter. The power of a human appeared exceptionally weak in the face of such a frightening might of the heavens. Rumble. The sound of rumbling thunder grew increasingly hurried. It seemed as though even the dark clouds could not cover the bright lightning. This scene was akin to millions of soldiers about to charge forward. Even the sky and land shook slightly. The thunder seemed to gather and ultimately reach its peak. However, the place strangely became quiet the moment the thunder roared. This silence continued for a mere instant. After which, everyone's pupils shrunk as they watched the thunderclouds in the sky being brutally torn apart. An earth-shaking roar suddenly resounded over the sky while resplendent lightning seemed to conceal all other light in the area. Countless 100,000 feet large thunderbolts charged out from the clouds in the sky like ferocious lightning dragons. After which, they turned into a lightning waterfall that descended from the sky and headed straight for Dao sect. This scene shocked countless Dao sect disciples so much that their complexions turned deathly white. The lightning dragons seemed to fill the sky and engulf the land as they descended. In the short span of several breaths, they had already reached the sky 10,000 feet above Dao sect. At this moment, with the light from the lightning, some Dao sect disciples saw the figure which had been seated beside the Pill River for almost 2 months, slowly stand up. The figure lifted his head and watched as the thunderbolt swept towards him. His skinny figure appeared exceptionally small in the face of these massive thunderbolts. However, the terror in the hearts of the Dao sect disciples instantly disappeared when they saw this figure. They ultimately believed that as long as this figure existed, their Dao sect would never fall. This was an almost blind faith. Such faith was crazy and irrational, but they never doubted it. Countless lightning dragons started to gather together. As thunder rumbled, the lightning dragons became a surging sea of lightning that brought with it an Armageddon-like power. Lin Dong lifted his head. The sea of lightning was reflected in his pitch-black eyes. His body moved and directly appeared in the sky. After which, he allowed the frightening lightning sea to envelop him. Gasps erupted from within Dao sect at this moment. However, these gasps quickly stopped. This was because they saw the descending sea of lightning suddenly come to a halt 10,000 feet from Dao sect. At this distance, it was already possible for them to see the destructive power contained within it. "Quick, look!" An exclamation suddenly sounded and countless pairs of eyes shot over. They saw waves suddenly rise from the center of the lightning sea as lightning slowly accumulated. Moments later, it turned into a 10,000 feet large lightning throne. A skinny figure holding a scepter stood on it before taking a seat. At this very moment, the figure was akin to the Emperor of Lightning. All of the terrifying thunderbolts were at his beck and call. The figure on the lightning throne gently waved his scepter, and the Armageddon-like sea of lightning swept downwards. After which, it gradually shrunk in front of countless pairs of eyes. Finally, it turned into a huge thunderbolt river, which was tens of thousands of feet in size, and slowly flowed in the sky above Dao sect. Everyone's eyes involuntarily widened when they saw that the frightening sea of lightning appeared as tame as sheep in Lin Dong's hands as disbelief filled their faces. After dealing with the frightening lightning sea, the figure slowly stood up from the lightning throne. Subsequently, he gently spread his hands. This episode ends here.